Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Monday, February 24th. I'm Darrell Watkins, the senior minister here at Sunshine Cathedral, and auxiliary bishop of the Global Justice Institute and current president of the Divine Science Federation. With me today are Bishop Robert Griffin of the Global Justice Institute, Reverend Dr. Ann Atwell, and Reverend Kevin Tisdall, all of whom minister with me here at Sunshine Cathedral. Visit sunshinecathedral.org to learn more about our progressive faith community and how you can be a part of it, no matter where you live in the world. Watch our streaming programs, ask for prayer, make donations, and follow us on social media. We'd love to have you as part of our community, regardless of your location. And if you live in South Florida, be sure to check out the Sunshine Cathedral Center for the Performing Arts, offering entertainment for the LGBTQ+ community to benefit the LGBTQ+ community. Queer God Squad was created by Hotspots Happening Out to support our mission to explore the value of faith in the LGBTQ community. There is no streaming TV show like this in the entire world. And in 2025, we're celebrating the 40th anniversary of Hotspots Magazine, the 5th anniversary of Queer News Tonight, with nearly 10,000 stories and 10,000 views in 2024. We'll produce the 25th anniversary of Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival on June 14th, Pride Fest, Diversity Pride in August, and now the near 50th anniversary of Pride Fort Lauderdale in February. We are the largest nonprofit LGBTQ media organization in America, and we'd encourage you to support our mission to inform, entertain, and educate our community and allies. If you enjoyed the Queer God Squad, please share this or other episodes with your friends, family, and social media communities. This is the Sunshine Cathedral Perspective. Queer God Squad remembers Crystal LaBeija and celebrates her lasting legacy. Crystal LaBeija was an American drag performer and trans woman who co-founded the House of LaBeija in 1968. The house is often credited as starting the house system in ball culture. She became a, quote, mother for homeless LGBTQ young people. In the early 60s, New York City drag culture was divided along racial lines, white, black, Latina. During this time, LaBeija won a Queen of the Ball title at a ball organized primarily by white people. In 1967, she was crowned Miss Manhattan. LaBeija can be seen in the 1968 documentary, The Queen. Toward the end of that film, we see LaBeija confronting flawless Sabrina, accusing her of rigging pageants in favor of white queens. Afterward, LaBeija, working with others, started a ball for black queens. In 1972, LaBeija used the word house to promote events that she and her cohort sponsored, and the house concept took off immediately. RuPaul reportedly saw Crystal LaBeija perform in Atlanta in a nightclub in 1979 as her first experience of drag. We see where that moment led. The television series Pose features characters and events inspired by LaBeija and the ball culture she helped pioneer. The House of LaBeija still stands. What does the Queer God Squad have to say about drag culture and the impact of the balls of yore? It is part of our culture. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is part of our history. Mm-hmm. It's part of the way that, we have overlapping oppressions, and we are, our lives are intersectional. And so here are these people who are demonized, vilify race for being queer, but even within their subculture, then there's racism. Mm-hmm. And so now black queens have to fight white racism writ large and homophobia writ large, and then racism within what's supposed to be their safe community. So there's all of these fights and all these negotiations going on throughout their lives. And to see how that played out, and to see how one person's answer was, if you're not going to play fairly, we'll just create our own thing. Mm-hmm. And how eventually that sort of took over. I mean, that's the ball culture we remember. Yeah, the black and Latin queens, mm-hmm. and that's what Pose is about, mm-hmm. and that's what Paris is Burning was about, mm-hmm. and that's the culture that has informed RuPaul. And so whenever you hear burn the house down boots, or slay, or those things come from that culture, that come from those times, where they had their own empowering language and lingo. Not everybody would know what it's about, which was part of the thing. But also they could be very affirming or very cutting, depending on who you said it to, the way you said it. And but it was a culture, I mean, where they took care of each other, they looked out for each other, where homeless people could come together, and even if they didn't find housing, they could find protection. They'd share food, they'd share clothes. It is part of our history. People who've been thrown away, finding family and connection. And so here are these people becoming mothers and starting houses for people who'd lost, whose mothers had betrayed them or abandoned them, or whose homes they'd been kicked out of, and now they're part of the house of someone, and there's someone who cares for them and looks after them, and they have community. That's a very important part of our culture. That's a very important part of our history. It's a part of our history that people are trying to erase right now. So here we are talking about it. Yes. In fact, someone complained not too long ago, why is it always trans? You talk about trans so much. Oh, honey, I haven't even mentioned it compared to what's happening from now on. I mean, we're not going to let people be erased. We're not going to let our history be, because without some very street savvy, hard drag queens and trans ladies in 1969, we might not even be able to have this conversation today. So no, we're not forgetting them. Oh, we're not forgetting them. And we're not forgetting what we owe them. So that's what I think about LaBeija, and I am forever grateful to her.
You know, I think just that part of our culture that if you didn't kind of grow up with it or was around it or was aware of it, may be kind of foreign to you. But I do remember the first drag event like that I went to, and it was in the military.
Oh, okay.
Now, of course, this was like you had to sneak out, no one knew what you were doing, everything. But I just remember being fascinated by that, the house system, the performances, because like, you didn't get this in Alabama. I had to leave Alabama to get this. But I was just like, always reminded that as a part of our community, a part of our nation, if you will, the gay nation and queer nation, that we are so diverse. And that we are so grand, if you will,
resilient,
and we persevere and we fight through things. And a lot of this started, from this type of a culture,
right?
And I'm proud of the folks who stuck with it. They set up house structures that would also then take care of people that were abandoned on the streets, and it would take them in and just help them. It fought racism. It fought a lot of the isms that we didn't even know about, that we had names for even back then. And so I'm just proud of how it has evolved, if you will. And it is still kind of making its presence through the show Pose, reminding us of that moment of where we came from and what we're a part of, and how we are all really linked together, whether we want to be or not. We really are linked in this community together. And it's not something we can do away with. It's a part of us. And, I just remember how in the show Pose, which is probably the most everyone is familiar, just looking at the system of that and how it worked and how people care for each other. No one got left out. No one got locked out. If you got on the outside, there was a way for you to get back on the inside. Big Mama was always taking care of somebody. And Big Mama was not going to let anyone mess with her children. And you see a little bit of evidence today that we still have that type of thing in place. Maybe not to that degree, but we still got big mamas around.
Well, when you hear the older queens, and I'm talking about people like me, not just professional drag queens, but the older people, when you hear the older queens talk about, oh, he showed out for the children.
Yeah.
That comes from a time where you had children. Now, your children might have been 40. And you might have met them last year for the first time. But, they showed out for the children because these were houses with mothers and children. And so, that's still in our consciousness. When we talk about the children, we're talking about our folks. We're talking about us.
And we have a member of Sunshine Cathedral who was a house mother, and so it's like just to listen to that story sometimes, talk about what it meant to, in Miami, to be one who was on the street, kind of kicked out, but also was taken in and kind of moved over to the house. It's like without it, they wouldn't have survived. And so I think that's kind of reminds me about how we really do care for each other in our community also.
Right. I think the discussion around the story is super timely as well, because the National Park Service has removed the T. From all of the Stonewall memorials.
We're gonna have a whole discussion about that.
But but I think it's really, really imperative that we honor those in our trans community. And if you're not particularly familiar with the house communities, which I really wasn't either. I mean, I'd heard of it, but didn't know much about it until Pose came along. And I have watched it. And then I watched it again. And I watched it. It is addictive. It is so good. And it is deeply moving. And it shows people, the most vulnerable young people out on the streets, and how they became parts of family. And to have that's imperative. You have to have that kind of support.
and it really humanizes the characters.
Absolutely.
Who really represent
Absolutely.
real people. In fact, some of these people from the day are like judges on the panels.
Yep,
or-
yep,
the real people are actually part of these scenes.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
The resilience of the drag community
Yeah.
cannot be overstated.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we are a church that walks the walk and talks the talk. If you come to a performance at Sunshine Cathedral Center for the Performing Arts, you're going to see some drag shows. You're going to see some of the most amazing drag
Vegas quality.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Just a couple of weeks ago, Latrice Royale turned it out.
That's one of those lines.
And I do it naturally because that's
how old you
I
are.
grew up.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
And it is just amazing that we still have to talk about just taking care of all parts of our community. Again, growing up, our community has always been a divided community in the sense that we never quite melded in terms of the races. I think we do it a little bit better now, but there's still that problem where if you're a queen, you may not like a drag queen. If you're of a certain ethnicity, you may not like a person of a certain ethnicity. That's something that we have to call out and be aware of. And as we embrace our drag community, as we embrace the fringes, quote unquote, fringes of our community, we begin to understand that together we can survive anything, and the resilience of the drag community shows us how much we can truly survive.
Starting about the year 28, 29, somewhere around there, there was a fringe community in Palestine.
Yeah.
And they were on the fringes of Judaism. And they were a possessed land and an empire. They were a little backwater. And but there was this little band, and it grew, and it became. They were campy. They took over Jerusalem with a fake parade, a street performance. They had a big protest at the temple. They were activists. They were counterculture, and it started as a little ragtag group of countercultural fringe people from this little place nowhere, and it changed the world. We until very recently defined time by before these people and after these people. You know what we still do? We just call it Common Era and before the Common Era. But forever, it was Year of Our Lord, A.D., Anno Domini, and before Christ. So before these people came about, and then after they got it, we divided time. That's how significant they were. So these little fringe queer groups, don't count us out.
Amen.
Nice.
Oh, and if that wasn't clear, I was talking about Jesus in this hoax. Okay.
Maybe that was a little insight. We were all like, yeah, go.
Yeah. We know what you're talking about. Yeah.
We'll think of Christianity. Okay. That's today with the Queer God Squad.
Before we go, we want to invite you to join Sunshine Cathedral on a wonderful travel experience and help our mission for our community. Join us on the Florida AIDS Walk Pride Cruise. This unique 3-day cruise will sail from Miami on the $1 billion and ultra-deluxe 170,000-ton MSC Seascape on November 2nd, 2025. The cruise is for the Florida AIDS Walk. Your participation helps 13 vital beneficiaries in our community. The cruise is an incredible value starting at just $199 and is also a fundraiser for the Sunshine Cathedral. Parties, special events, and more aboard, including a special unlimited beverage and open bar with Wi-Fi for all 3 days for just $68. We invite you to join us on this amazing cruise for fun, this vital cruise for good.
Thank you for joining the Queer God Squad today. We are here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's leading progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together. Remember that. We all are in this together.
Also remember, you are God's miracle, not God's mistake. Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Goodbye.